enforcement in this country has no constitutional affirmative duty to protect citizens. That's why in that case a couple of days ago, where the cops stood by and literally watched a man drown, one cop said, "I am not coming in there after you." They know they have no constitutional duty to protect people. They know this. We seem to be the only ones who are under this illusion that the police actually live by that or operate under that credo, protect and serve. We need to disabuse ourselves from this idea that the police and policing in general as an institution exists to protect people. It does not. The police do not exist to protect you and me. So those cops in Uvalde, yes, they are undergoing a period of intense public scrutiny, but legally, they're not going to be held accountable for anything they didn't do, because under the Constitution, they do not have an affirmative duty to protect anybody. They can be held accountable if under the law for maybe inaction on not pursuing the criminal, but any legal accountability for not saving the lives of those children, legally, no. And this is why legally, when the cops violate our rights and abuse us and take our lives, there is no legal recourse, because constitutionally they have no affirmative right to protect children. And if they don't have an affirmative right to protect children, they don't have an affirmative right to protect adults. And they also have that extra added protection of qualified immunity, which gives them cover, the cover of acting under the best information they have, or they feared for their life, or whatever qualified immunity, that blanket immunity they get because they're cops, to do whatever they feel like it and be able to say at the end of the day, oh, well, I was operating on the best understanding that I have and I feared for my life.
So I think what we need to do now at this particular, we need to embark on a campaign between now and the 2024 election of purging ourselves of Black misleadership. I think that we have to go after them. We have to disgrace them. We have to drag them from power, and we have to form our own independent political and social networks so that we could run our own candidates, so that we could begin to put on the referendum bills on the local referendums that address our needs. We need to really, really wage war against the Black misleadership class. These niggas are out of control.
You know, I want to add something real quick, because oftentimes, you know, we need clarity, and folks are not quite clear about what you mean when you talk about leadership by victimhood. I think that one of the things that we forget, you know, in many cases, I think there's been situations where we've lost loved ones, and you have people stand up speaking on behalf of those loved ones, but it's not a concrete analysis. They're speaking from emotion and pain opposed to what the overall picture is about.
But you know, I don't want to cut you off, Kalonji, but most of the victims of police murder are apolitical. They weren't activists in the movement. They weren't trying to liberate Black folks. They were just living their lives and going about trying to struggle through the best as they could. And so their life was taken from them by these police and by these fascists. And the family is now thrust into the spotlight, you know, to explain this loss. And they can't explain it because they don't have an analysis. So who comes along? The Crumps come along, you know. This Negro ain't won a case since 1922. He comes along. You see, the Sharptons come along because they know that they look at the media, they see Crump talking on the media.
Vultures.
Yeah, and so they say,
Right.
well, we need a family lawyer. Let's call him. You see, and so they just perpetrate the idea and the notion of victimhood. Okay, it's one thing to understand that people who have lost their loved ones and have their children murdered, this is a deeply traumatic experience for anybody. And I know how I would feel if I lost my children like this. So this is a deeply traumatic experience, but it doesn't mean that qualifies me as to call the shots for a movement, to talk about when we should demonstrate, how we should demonstrate, what manner of protests we should carry out. I mean, you had these folks come up right after their loved one is murdered talking about let the prosecution run its course and let's not burn down anything. And you're supposed to burn down everything. Anything that these crackers own, you're supposed to burn that shit down. Okay, if they on CNN, burn it down. They're the ones that's determining the parameters of the debate. Burn that shit down. Put some fire up under Joy Reid's drawers and run her funky ass out of there. Okay, we need to do these things. We need not follow the leadership of people who have suffered the loss of their child, the loss of their loved ones, and now they're thrust into the public spotlight. What are they supposed to say? Right. What analysis they're going to present? You see?
Right.
Maybe they might listen to a Farrakhan tape since the kid got killed, or they heard Sharpton give a eulogy. So they come out and they mouth something that they heard there. They don't have no real deep analysis and no experience in the struggle.
Right, so, because I think, and not to cut you, but I think in many cases, they don't realize it's war. And it's like what you talked about in the past, you know, they didn't kill Mike Brown because his last name was Brown. They didn't kill George Floyd because his last name was Floyd. This is war on us. This is war on African and indigenous and other oppressed people around the planet. And it's not a personal thing. It's personal to us because it hits home. That's understandable. But like you said, just because of the fact that I'm in pain, don't mean that I'm the person to stand up and say that this is what should be done. We have to have a historical analysis and understand who our enemy is. And I think that political education is so important, because without political education, you'll be confused into believing that it's just about your situation. And that's not to take away from your situation, because again, you know, hell yeah, it's going to hit home. But we need, if you have a heart problem, you need a cardiologist. Just because I have a doctor on my title, you know, and I happen to be a dentist, it don't mean I go in fucking with the heart. That's matters of the heart. That's something else to deal with, you know. So I think that's important for folks to understand, because I know that, you know, oftentimes, and we just from working on this side of the barricades, oftentimes we run into families that want to tell you how to call the shots. No, you can say how the name is represented. We understand and respect that, but a war is bigger than the individual.
Absolutely. We are at war, and I think one a vivid illustration of that is that when George Floyd was being suffocated, you know, and this cracker was kneeling in his neck, everybody was standing around yelling, but nobody threw a brick at this cracker. Nobody threw a rock at him or anything.
Right.
You know,
right.
If they would have distracted him for a moment and he got off that man's neck, he might still be alive today.
That's right.
Okay. So we all accepted a cracker in our midst strangling a black man to death. And all we could do was yell, "Oh man, what are you doing? That's wrong. That's wrong." Nobody fire blasted that cracker. They wasn't expecting no snipers from the rooftops ambushing them. Okay. One of the things you have to understand about the auspices of the Black Liberation Army, that once these crackers understood that there would be retribution, that there was no such thing as justice without retribution, they was rolling in the community 4 deep in a squad car, standing with their back to the wall. Okay.
Right.
And they wasn't trying to pick no fight with nobody.
Since you brought that up, and in honor of blood, you know, our comrade who is no longer here physically, just real quick, if you don't mind, because I know that there are people who are unclear about who the BLA was, what was the role of the BLA, because I think that, you know, I often hear folks talk about how no one has ever responded, or how, you know, we don't do this, or we need that, so on and so forth. Please, in the best way, without without giving away trade secrets, for lack of better words, you know.
Well, you know what, Kalonji, the problem is that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. And when I was coming up, and this is not to praise my generation or anything over and above everybody else, because every generation did have those of us who came forward and picked up the gun to defend our people, to defend ourselves, to defend our humanity. So when I was younger, I felt it was my obligation to make sure that those people who felt that they could bully us, that they could beat us, and they can get away with it, that they had to pay a price, that there had to be retribution. Now, you have some folks that say, well, you believe that now, why don't you get out there and do something? You know, my night vision ain't like it used to be, bro, and my reflexes ain't like it used to be, but I'll tell you something. You know, if the situation was different, you know, them crackers will pay for this. And that's one of the things that when I said blood was always in the mix, you had comrades like Camus White, you had comrades like Twyman Myers, we had comrades that took that seriously, you know, and that you weren't going to, if there were going to be funerals, it wasn't going to be funerals on one side, it was going to be funerals on both sides. And that's the thing that white supremacists and oppressors understand. That's the only thing that brings them to the negotiating table, is when body bags start coming back home. When body bags start coming back home, then the sympathy and the empathy that the family of Breonna Taylor felt for the loss of their daughter, they feel it for the loss of their child. And then people start talking about, man, we can't keep on going like this. Let's come to some type of détente. Let's come to some type of settlement here, you know? And the settlement basically is, you cannot kill me and kill my people with impunity. It will not happen. You could organize all the police you want, you could get all the firepower you want, but when it comes down to it, I call the shots. I call it when it happens, where it happens, and when it and where it and how it happens. You know, so you could bring all that firepower to bear. You're gonna have to occupy the community from block to block, street to street, 24 hours a day. Let's see how that works.
Right on. Well, I know I'm getting you ramped up. I don't want to go too far over in the other direction. But
well, I am an advocate. I am an advocate of revolutionary justice. I believe the history has shown that oppressors and exploiters will not take their foot off your neck unless they have to pay a consequence.
You have to chop that motherfucker off. Right on.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, man, you know, it's always, you know, I ain't get to kick it with you this weekend. You know what I'm saying?
You be ducking me, man.
I feel away. You said I was ducking you.
You be ducking me. That's why your hair is looking so slick, man.
Come on, man. Why you gonna do me like that?
You're getting your broadcast persona together, man. You know?
He colder than the white, man.
But first of all, have they even seen any of these? Have they read any of these words? I know they ain't read this one. Okay? I mean, I'm just saying, we all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. Have they read Randall Robinson's The Debt? What blacks owe to each other. This one was The Reckoning. I'm sorry. This one was The Debt. I mean, I'm just saying, you can't criticize and tear stuff apart if you don't know what it is and what's in it. We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. And if you're going to continually denigrate what came before, what's going to happen when you're 20 years down the line? Okay, then people are going to forget about everything you did, or what? I mean, you know, I'm just saying. So I think that's a
marketing campaign can't think that far ahead. They're thinking about the immediate moment. They're trying to win now. They're not thinking about then or in the future. But Diallo, Geechee, anybody want to jump in, raise any questions, comments?
Well, I'm just gonna have to confess I'm one of the mudslingers and infighters as far as the reparation movements go, because, and one of the reasons, I name call, and I be in Twitter and calling people out and pointing fingers and naming names, because I think there is a very real distinction between reparations and what I call prosperity politics. There's a faction of reparations that seek to embrace U.S. patriotism, U.S. imperialism, and capitalism, and their movement is nothing more than to give Black people the revenue, the capital, to fully engage with the U.S. economy as it exists, without any calls for true justice, and even to the point where they openly call for xenophobic policies against Africans of the other Africans of the diaspora of Latin America and the Caribbean, and Africans from the continent, separation, exclusion, and a strict policy enforced hierarchy that prioritizes Africans born in America against and above Africans from other parts of the globe. And, you know, to me, that is not reparations. You know, as I was taught by, you know, Conrad, the late Dr. Conrad Warrill, and Bill Grace and National Black United Front. So yeah, I think that has to be confronted. I don't even see a place for common ground. So maybe I'm wrong about that there can be common ground with literally Black capitalists and Black imperialists and Black patriots of the U.S. status quo. But when they claim they're fighting for reparations for Black people, I think they are harming and distorting the struggle as opposed to contributing to it.
Well, brother, I think we're on the 100% same wavelength here. I agree with everything that you are saying, and there's a lot of confusion going on out there, and a lot of that confusion is emanating from exactly those issues that you are speaking of, and the people who are spouting those issues. So,
and let me just say, I am speaking specifically about ADOS and Foundational Black America, FBA, ADOS, and people of that ilk specifically, who I think are trying to hijack the reparation struggle.
I think though, if and Geechee, jump in, I'm not bad, but if there is a difference at all between the two of you, if at all, it would be around the issue of mudslinging, right, or name calling, right? Diallo maybe gets a little more, you know, hands-on, you know, virtually hands-on, and I don't know, whatever the phrase would be.
So let me just say,
but they do ask for it, though. I mean, I'm in general, I'm with you, Nkechi, but they woo, they get grimy with it. Anyway,
well, what the thing is that I'm on the internet, and people don't know who I am. They see my name, Nkechi Taifa, and they attack me solely because I thought I was from Nigeria. Because my first name is a Nigerian name, even though I don't pronounce it the way they pronounce it in Nigeria. That's another issue. But I was attacked viciously on the internet solely because of my name. And I will say, Brother Giallo, I chose not to respond because, you know, that went on for about a month. If I had responded, it'd probably still be going on today, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I salute you for standing up for the rights. My position is let my work speak for myself. Okay. And yeah.
No, right on.
Well, yeah, I've experienced the same thing being Diallo Kenyatta. I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, and my ancestors came over like on the Mayflower damn near. We've been here for so goddamn long, but I do engage because I see that the what I call prosperity politics, which is basically, you know, a bastard of prosperity gospel. It's very lucrative and attractive what they're selling to a lot of impoverished and struggling African people. There's this notion of a windfall that will enable us to fully, it's economic integration essentially, fully become full-scale Americans and enjoy all the spoils of imperialism and all the spoils of America first nationalism. And so I think it has to be challenged directly and aggressively, because it is a contamination or an infection, ideological infection. But I do respect, trying to stay above the fray. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and hold that. Yeah, I sling mud. I swing back.
So, Atlanta, let's talk a little bit about the instruments of the state, right? Atlanta, of course, has like a police force, like every city, and we have our problems with police brutality and police violence against the masses of people. So I just wanted to ask you about your viewpoint on the on Atlanta's police, because there are quite a few Black police here. But does that make a difference?
It doesn't make any difference, right? It doesn't make any difference, right? We've got a lot of Black police in Atlanta who, again, people like to make these things personality things. They may be nice people. They may treat their dogs well. They may be supporting their families. Obviously, these jobs have been given to working class Black folks as a way to incorporate them in the economy, but to do it in a certain way where they're now the foot soldiers for development. They are the foot soldiers for private property. They are the foot soldiers for the politicians and the elected officials to cry crime and to control and regulate poor and working class Black communities. So it doesn't matter whether or not Atlanta's police are Black or white. There may be some things around the edges where, of course, every now and then something like that may come in handy. But for the most part, the police do what they're told to do. And when they're told to move people off the block, they move people off the block. When they're told that they need to make arrests, they make arrests. And just like anybody else, when someone has the nerve to suggest that they shouldn't be harassed or they shouldn't be arrested, they react in a way that police are trained to react, which is to take control of the situation and to do everything from on the light end, yelling at you, on a heavier end, handcuffing you, arresting you, beating you, and to the ultimate end of eventually taking out a gun and potentially shooting you. So Atlanta police basically is the public army, right, for the larger state apparatus or city apparatus. And in this particular case, again, there may be some things around the edges, but the Atlanta's police force is here to control the general population, and that's what they do.
Right.
All right. What's good, everybody? I felt like, I didn't want to let my my degree from Brown go to waste. That's Morris Brown. So, I got a degree in African studies. So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and drop a little bit of history right here, right about now. So who do I want to talk about in history that actually did something? Let's talk about no other than Mansa Musa. That's right. Mansa Musa from the Mali Empire back in 1312, made his transition in 1337, taking you Bidak. So he is also known as for his wealth and gift giving, and sometimes it's called one of the wealthiest people in history. That's right. So he came up off of salt and gold mining. They took over the Ghana Empire with Mali and branched out. What he's known for is pretty much taking his Mecca, going to Mecca and taking his journey and giving everybody gold, helping everybody here, there, and also going to building up Timbuktu and having where he's teaching culture, he's teaching arts, he's teaching math, he's teaching astrology. So he pretty much brought a whole lot of culture and gave a lot of gold away. So and pretty much a lot of people hated on him, but a lot of people loved him because they was like, yo, dude's giving away gold. So Mansa Musa made me think about the whole pretty much how we rock gold and how we look at gold. And our Mansa Musa at the time was no other than my boy Mr. T. Mr. T was like Mansa Musa, and then it went down to Slick Rick. So we all about showing your gold, showing this, that, and the third. And it made me wonder why so much why do we want to hold on to gold? Why do we want to hold on to jewelry and stuff like that? And I got to thinking, I was like, I guess it's because when crypto ain't about nothing, when the dollar bills ain't about nothing, the only thing you have left is these minerals, gold, diamonds, and stuff like that. So I used to be like, man, why are they spending all this money on this gold and stuff? But now I guess I get it. It's all about those minerals. Well, that's my quick break. I know we got a lot more to get to right here on the Remix Morning Show, but do your history on Mansa Musa. A lot of people reference him, even what was it? You got him in songs. You got Ghostface Killer talking about Mansa Musa. You even got a song on Anderson .Paak album called Mansa Musa. So a lot of people revered this dude as being one of the wealthiest men in the world. So that's our break right now. Let's get back to the Remix Morning Show.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. T was our Mansa Musa. Did I hear that correctly?
You did hear him say that.
Okay. All
Rocket
right.
I love how
Pocket
ear doctor.
I
Ear
ain't never
doctor, you
seen no-
always start off with something, and we like, yeah, ear doctor starting off with something, and then you, then we
have
get
expectations,
confused.
Erica, still? You have expectations?
Yes,
Yeah,
because I'm getting excited. I get the history lesson, and then it just, yeah.
The build up for the
Appreciate you.
drop.
Hey, no
Appreciate
problem.
you, though. Appreciate
Gold is nothing but a social construct, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like a heavy metal that's shiny, and humans have put value to it, but it is nothing but a heavy metal, right?
Which is what I always thought was the point about how Musa had accumulated so much and why it meant more in other parts of the world than it did in his own economy, so to speak. And that's why he was able to give so much of it away, because at home it was like, we have so much. What is the big deal, everybody? And everybody else was like, no, we got to have it. Anyway, but but the Mr. T is our Mansa Musa. That's the line of the day for me right there. That's
As we talking about, just flaunting gold like how it was, that's what I mean. So,
Flavor Flav
I